This is the last photograph ever taken of them, 3 hours after this picture. They were running for their lives. And here is the thing that no one can explain. Not the Soviet investigators in 1959, not the Russian government in 2020, not the Swiss scientists in 2021. Nobody. These 9 people were not beginners. They were not lost. They were not drunk. They had done this exact kind of expedition, in this exact kind of weather, multiple times before. They had a warm tent. They had food. They had everything they needed to survive the night. And yet, sometime after 3 a.m., every single one of them cut their way out of that tent with a knife from the inside and walked, not ran, walked into a minus 40-degree blizzard without boots, without coats, without looking back. Now ask yourself one question. What could possibly terrify 9 of the most experienced winter hikers in the Soviet Union so badly that staying inside a warm tent felt more dangerous than walking into a blizzard that would kill them? That question has never been answered, and the closer investigators got to answering it, the stranger this case became. A woman with no tongue. 2 people with rib cages shattered by a force comparable to a high-speed car crash, but not a single scratch on their skin, radiation on their clothing. An elite investigator who, 30 years after closing this case, admitted he had been ordered to hide what he found. Tonight, we are going to Dead Mountain. Every piece of verified evidence, every forensic detail, every declassified file, and by the end of this video, you will understand exactly what happened to these 9 people. But I have to warn you, the answer is not what you expect, and it is far more disturbing than any conspiracy theory. Before we go to that mountain, you need to know who these people were, because this is not a story about 9 strangers. This is a story about 9 friends. Igor Dyatlov, 23 years old, engineering student, the kind of person who walked into a room and everyone immediately felt safer. He had organized this entire expedition himself, mapped the route, selected the team, filed every permit. This was not his first dangerous trek. It was not his 5th. Igor Dyatlov had survived conditions that would kill most people. He was, by every account, exactly the kind of leader you wanted when everything went wrong. Every single time he had led a group into the wilderness, he had brought everyone home. Lyudmila Dubinina, 20 years old, the youngest on the expedition, fierce, determined, and according to everyone who knew her, completely fearless. She kept a diary full of jokes and observations about the mountains, right up until the last page. Semyon Zolotaryov, 38 years old, a decorated World War II veteran, a certified hiking instructor. He had survived things these students could not imagine. If anyone on this mountain knew how to handle a crisis, it was him. 9 people. Combined experience spanning decades. Every single one trained, prepared, and tested by the harshest conditions the Soviet Union could produce. And then, there was the 10th member, Yuri Yudin, 21 years old, geology student. He made it to the group's second campsite, and then his sciatic nerve flared up. The pain was unbearable. He couldn't continue. So on January 28th, Yuri Yudin hugged each of his friends goodbye. He watched them ski away into the tree line, and he turned around and went home. He had no idea that the pain in his leg had just saved his life. For the next 54 years, Yuri Yudin visited his friends' graves every single February 2nd. He never married. He kept a small teddy bear, a gift from Lyudmila, until the day he died. And every year, standing at those graves, he said the same thing. I should have been with you. He died in 2013, still without an answer. The question he carried his entire life was simple. What happened to his friends on that mountain? We are about to find out. January 28th, 1959. The 9 remaining hikers pushed north, and from this point forward, we know exactly where they went, what they ate, what they felt, what they were thinking, because they wrote everything down. Their journals are extraordinary documents, not because of what went wrong, but because of how right everything felt. They wrote about snowball fights, about singing around the fire, about the way the Ural Mountains looked at sunset, like the world had been painted just for them. Krivonashenko played the mandolin every night. Dyatlov sketched maps by torchlight. These were not people walking toward death. These were people living, fully, completely, joyfully, in one of the harshest environments on Earth. And then, January 31st, the weather shifted. Wind speeds climbed. Visibility dropped. The temperature fell to levels where exposed skin freezes in under 4 minutes. The group made a decision: push toward their target peak and camp on the open slope rather than lose the elevation they'd spent days gaining. It was a calculated risk. Igor Dyatlov had made harder calls than this before, and every single time, he had brought everyone home. February 1st, 3 p.m. This is the last photograph. They are setting up their tent on the eastern slope of a mountain the local Mansi people had named centuries ago. Kholat Shakal. In the Mansi language, it means dead mountain. They ate dinner. They wrote their final diary entries. Dyatlov wrote about tomorrow's route. And then, they went to sleep. No one knows exactly what happened next. What we know is what the search party found, and nothing could have prepared them for it. February 20th, 1959. The sports club back in Sverdlovsk has not received a single telegram, not one word, from 9 people who promised to check in. Search parties mobilize immediately, and for 6 days, they find nothing. Just snow, just wind, just silence. Then, February 26th, a search party crests a ridge and stops. The tent is still there, still standing, which means wherever these 9 people are, they left in a hurry. The lead investigator approaches carefully, and the moment he reaches the tent, he knows something is catastrophically wrong. The tent has been destroyed, not from the outside, from the inside. Someone, multiple people, had taken knives and carved their way out of their own shelter. Not one cut, not 2, multiple desperate slashes. From the inside, outward, the investigator reaches in through the opening. Everything is still there. Food, fully packed. Boots, all of them, lined up neatly. Coats, untouched. Cameras, journals, equipment. Every single thing these 9 people needed to survive a minus 40-degree night, left behind. Voluntarily. The footprints tell a story that makes even less sense. 9 people walked away from this tent. Not ran, walked. At a normal pace. In socks. In bare feet. In a single boot on one foot. Directly into the blizzard. Directly away from everything that could save their lives. The search party follows the footprints. 500 meters from the tent, they find the first 2 bodies. Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonashenko, lying side by side beneath a large cedar tree, in their underwear. The temperature that night, minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And here is the detail that stops every investigator cold. The top branches of that cedar tree, 15 feet up, had been freshly broken. Someone had climbed this tree, in the dark, in a blizzard, barefoot, to look for something, or escape something on the ground below. The fire near the tree tells its own disturbing story. Krivonashenko had third-degree burns on his hands and legs, burns that could only happen if he had fallen, or pressed directly into the flames, and the medical examiner found something else, a piece of human flesh in his mouth. He had bitten off part of his own knuckle. Days later, 3 more bodies. Igor Dyatlov himself, found 300 meters from the cedar, lying on his back, arms raised slightly, as if he had been trying to get up one last time. Zinaida Kolmogorova, found further up the slope. She had crawled further than anyone toward the tent. Her fingernails were torn. She had been fighting until the very last second of her life. Rustam Slobodin found between them a fracture in his skull, but still, cause of death listed as hypothermia. These 5 deaths are terrible. They are heartbreaking, but they are, just barely, explainable. People fleeing in the dark, hypothermia setting in, bodies shutting down one by one, tragic, but possible. Then spring came, the snow began to melt, and on May 4th, a Mansi hunter and his dog were moving through the ravine below the cedar when the dog stopped and started digging. 13 feet below the surface, the last 4 bodies. And this is where the Dyatlov Pass case stops being a tragedy and becomes something else entirely. The forensic examiner's name was Boris Vozrodseny. He had examined hundreds of bodies in his career. He was not a man who frightened easily. But when the autopsy results came back on the last 4, he wrote something in his report he had never written before. The force responsible for these injuries was not human. Let me show you exactly what he found. Nikolai Thibault Brignoles, major skull fracture, the kind of impact that required extraordinary force. But his skin, completely undamaged, not a bruise on the surface, not a single scratch. Semyon Zolotaryov, multiple bilateral rib fractures, both sides of the chest, simultaneously crushed. The forensic examiner compared the force required to a high-speed car crash. But again, 0 external wounds. Ludmila Dubinina, the same catastrophic chest injuries, ribs broken on both sides, no external marks. And then, the detail that would haunt this case forever. Her tongue was missing. Her eyes were gone. Part of her lips, gone. Now, before your mind goes to the darkest possible place, here is what the forensic science actually tells us. Dubinina's body was found face down, in a small stream running through the ravine. She had been there, under frozen water, for 3 months. Decomposition in running water is aggressive. Wildlife in remote Siberia does not discriminate. Vozrodzeny's official conclusion: the soft tissue damage happened after death. Not before, not during, after. But here is what science cannot explain away so easily. The chest injuries on Zolotaryov and Dubinina, the force required to cause them, left 0 evidence on the skin. No bruising, no entry point, no surface trauma. Modern forensic experts have one explanation for this kind of injury pattern: a sudden, massive, distributed pressure impact. Something that hit the entire chest simultaneously, from the outside, with the force of a car, and left no mark on the surface, like being hit by a car while lying under a mattress. The surface absorbs the blow, the inside does not. Now, remember the man who bit off his own knuckle? This is not madness. This is not panic. This is the human body in its final battle against hypothermia. In the advanced stages of freezing to death, the brain begins to lose its grip on consciousness. The body starts shutting down system by system. And in that final window, before everything goes dark, the brain does something desperate. It searches for pain, because pain means awareness. Pain means consciousness. Pain means 1 more minute alive. Krivonashenko bit into his own hand, not because he lost his mind, but because he was fighting, with everything he had left, to stay in it. And then, the radiation. When investigators tested the hiker's clothing, several items came back positive for beta radiation. In 1959 Soviet Russia, during the height of the Cold War, the word radiation meant one thing: weapons. But here is what the evidence actually shows. Krivonashenko had worked at the Mayak nuclear facility, the same facility that suffered the catastrophic Kishtim disaster in 1957, the 3rd worst nuclear accident in history. The radiation on the clothing was localized, consistent with prior contamination, carried on the fabric of a man who had worked in a contaminated zone, not a weapons test. Prior exposure. nothing more. And the orange skin? The brown, discolored faces witnesses described at the funerals? Forensically confirmed. Skin discoloration ranging from brown to bright orange is a documented characteristic of bodies exposed to severe frost conditions after death. It is not radiation burns. It is not poison. It is what extreme cold does to human skin over time. 6 hikers dead from hypothermia. 3 with injuries that should not be possible without external trauma. A lead investigator ordered to suppress his findings. Radiation on the clothing. Files sealed for 30 years. And 9 people who, for reasons no one has ever fully explained, chose a blizzard over their tent. Now, let's talk about why. Over 65 years, dozens of countries, hundreds of researchers, nearly 100 theories, and not a single one explains everything. But some come closer than others. Let's go through the most credible ones, not the sensational ones, not the ones designed to scare you, the ones that actually hold up against the evidence. In 2020, 61 years after 9 people died on this mountain, the Russian government officially reopened the case and closed it again. Their conclusion, one word, avalanche. But this time, science backed them up. In 2021, researchers from ETH Zurich and Epfel in Switzerland built a complete computer simulation. The slope, the tent position, the snow density, the wind patterns on the exact night of February 1st. What they found changed the conversation permanently. When the hikers cut into the slope to install their tent, they unknowingly created the perfect conditions for what scientists call a delayed slab release. Not a roaring wall of snow, nothing dramatic, something far more sinister. A dense, heavy plate of wind-compressed snow that broke free silently, hours after the hikers fell asleep. The simulation showed something extraordinary. The force of that slab, hitting hikers lying flat on the ground, would produce exactly the injuries found on the bodies in the ravine. Massive internal damage, shattered ribs, skull fractures, with 0 external wounds, because the pressure distributed across the entire body simultaneously. And then in 2022, those same researchers went back to the actual mountain with drones, and they filmed something that had never been captured before. A real slab avalanche on the exact same type of slope, in the exact same conditions. Small, almost quiet, nothing like the avalanches in movies. But at 3 a.m., in complete darkness, with the sound of cracking snow directly above your head, loud enough to jolt you awake, it would feel like the entire mountain was coming down on top of you. And according to the Russian prosecutor, everything the group did after that moment was textbook emergency procedure. Move away from the slope, get to the tree line, wait for the danger to pass, then come back. They never came back, because in the darkness, separated, underdressed, with internal injuries some of them didn't even know they had yet. The cold killed them before they could. Powerful theory, backed by physics, backed by computer modeling, backed by real expedition evidence. But there is one thing the avalanche theory has never fully explained. 9 people, walking, not running, at a completely normal pace, away from the tent. If a slab of snow had just crushed your friends, if you had felt the mountain crack open above you, would you walk? And researchers who have physically visited the site, including independent expeditions as recently as 2024, argue that the actual slope angle at the tent location was too gentle for any slab release. That 65 years of recorded history shows 0 avalanches at this exact location before 1959 or after. The avalanche theory explains the injuries, but it does not explain the walking. This is the theory that deserves far more attention than it gets, because it might explain the one thing every other theory cannot. Why 9 experienced, rational, disciplined hikers abandoned all logic and walked into a death sentence, Katabatic winds are dense cold air masses that accelerate violently down mountain slopes. In the Urals, they can reach hurricane force in under 3 minutes, with absolutely zero warning. But here is what makes Dead Mountain specifically terrifying. The unique shape of Kholat Shakal creates a specific wind tunnel effect that, in certain conditions, produces something called infrasound. Infrasound is a frequency below the threshold of human hearing. You cannot hear it. Your ears register nothing, but your body feels it. In the 1980s, researcher Vic Tandy was working late alone in his laboratory in Coventry, England. He began to feel, without any explanation, an overwhelming sense of dread. The feeling that something was in the room with him, that something was catastrophically wrong. He started sweating, his vision blurred. He felt he was being watched. He turned around, and there was nothing there. He spent weeks investigating. What he found was an industrial fan in the building, producing infrasound at exactly 18.98 hertz, a frequency that, in laboratory conditions, has been shown to cause anxiety, dread, visual disturbances, and in sustained exposure, complete psychological disorientation. Now think about this. 9 people, trained for exactly this kind of emergency, who had every tool they needed to survive, who cut their way out of their own tent and walked into minus 40 degrees without their boots. Does that sound like a physical threat? Or does that sound like 9 people whose minds were screaming at them that the tent itself was the most dangerous place on the mountain? Infrasound doesn't leave evidence. It doesn't show up in autopsies. It doesn't appear in case files. But its effects are documented, peer-reviewed, scientifically confirmed, and the shape of Dead Mountain is exactly the kind of terrain that produces it. We will never know what those 9 people heard in that tent, what they felt, what their bodies were telling them in the hours before they cut their way out. But if infrasound was present, then the most irrational decision in this entire case suddenly becomes the only decision their minds could make. Here is something worth thinking about. Of all the people in the world who had the most reason to accept the official explanation, it was Yuri Yudin, the sole survivor, the man who hugged these 9 people goodbye and watched them ski away, the man who spent 54 years living with the guilt of being alive. If the natural explanation brought him peace, he would have taken it. He never did. Until the day he died, Yuri Yudin believed his friends were killed by a Soviet weapons test. In February 1959, the Soviet military was actively testing experimental weapons in the Ural region, pressure-based munitions, fuel-air explosives, devices specifically designed to cause catastrophic internal injuries without surface damage. The same injury pattern found on the bodies in the ravine. On the exact night the Dyatlov group died, a separate hiking group, 50 kilometers to the south, reported something strange in the sky. Glowing orange spheres, moving silently to the north, toward Dead Mountain. They were not the only ones. The Meteorology Service reported the same phenomenon. Military personnel in the region reported the same phenomenon. Multiple independent witnesses, all saying the same thing. Orange spheres, that night, that direction. And then, 1990, 31 years after closing the case, the lead investigator himself finally spoke. Lev Ivanov gave an interview and said 2 things that reframed everything. First, he had no rational explanation for what he found, not one. Second, after his team reported the flying spheres, he received direct orders from senior regional officials. Bury it, don't report it, close the file. He followed orders and spent the rest of his life wondering if he should have. Now, does this prove a weapons test killed the Dyatlov group? The radiation has a verified prior exposure explanation. A weapons test precise enough to kill 9 people and leave 0 physical evidence at the scene is extraordinarily difficult to engineer. But the cover-up, the sealed files, the ordered silence, the investigator who admitted on record that he was told to hide what he found. That part is not a theory. That part is documented fact. And here is the question that sits at the center of all of this. If it was simply an avalanche, why did the Soviet government need to hide it? Avalanches happen. Hikers die in the mountains. These things did not need to be secrets in 1959. So what, exactly? Did Lev Ivanov see that he was ordered never to speak about? So, after 65 years, after hundreds of researchers, after computer simulations, drone expeditions, declassified files, and a sole survivor who carried this question to his grave, what actually happened on Dead Mountain? Here is the most honest answer anyone can give you. We don't know, not with certainty, and anyone who tells you otherwise is not giving you the truth. They are giving you comfort. Those are two very different things. The most scientifically credible explanation, backed by physics, forensic science, and real-world expedition data, points to a delayed slab avalanche, a silent plate of snow, releasing in the night, striking hikers in their sleep, causing catastrophic internal injuries with no surface trauma, sending a group of experienced, disciplined hikers into a controlled emergency evacuation that the darkness and the cold turned into a death sentence. The radiation, prior contamination from a nuclear worker, the orange skin, documented frost exposure after death, the missing soft tissue, 3 months in a running stream, the sealed files, standard Soviet procedure for any domestic incident that made the motherland look vulnerable. Explainable. All of it explainable. Except, why were they walking? And what were they trying to see from the top of that tree? And if it was only an avalanche, why did the most senior investigator on the case need to be told to hide what he found? Some questions don't get answered. Some cases don't get solved. Some truths stay buried under 13 feet of snow on a mountain that has been here long before any of us and will be here long after. The wind on Dead Mountain does not explain itself. It never has. I want to come back to this photograph because it is very easy when you spend this much time with forensic reports and Soviet cover-ups and competing scientific theories to forget something important. These were real people. Igor Dyatlov, 23 years old, who mapped this route by hand, who chose every single member of this team personally, who was found on the slope, arms raised, still trying to get up. Zinaida Kolmogorova, who wrote about the beauty of sunsets in her final diary entry, who crawled further than anyone toward the tent, whose torn fingernails told investigators everything they needed to know about how hard she fought. Ludmila Dubinina, 20 years old, who kept a diary full of laughter right up until the last page. The youngest, the fiercest, Semyon Zolotaryov, who survived a world war, who had seen things that would have broken most people, and who spent his final hours building a snow shelter in a frozen ravine, trying to keep the others alive. They did not die in panic. The evidence is clear on that. The surviving members stripped clothing from the dead to keep the living warm. They built a shelter with frozen hands in complete darkness. They laid their dead carefully, respectfully, side by side. These were not people who lost their minds. These were people who faced something impossible and fought back with every last thing they had. Today, Dead Mountain has a different name, Dyatlov Pass, named for the 23-year-old engineering student who led 9 people into the wilderness and never brought them home. There is a museum in Yekaterinburg dedicated entirely to them. Every year, hikers still make the journey to the pass, to stand where they stood, to feel what they felt, to try to understand. And for 54 years, an old man made the same journey, to the same cemetery, to stand in front of 9 graves in the February cold and say the same words, "I should have been with you." Yuri Yudin died. April 27th, 2013. He was 75 years old. He carried that question every single day of those 54 years, and he died, still without an answer. If you could ask one question, and God himself had to answer, what really happened to 9 friends on a mountain in February 1959, what would the answer be? Yuri Yudin asked that question his entire life. The mountain never answered. Some channels give you theories. Panoptica Worldwide gives you the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is. If this story kept you here until the end, you already know what this channel is. Subscribe.